And then we're going to do. Hey, everybody. I'm here. Yay. We're here. Welcome, Andre from Proactive Astrology. Yay. Welcome him to the castle. He came back again. Yay. Um, and so there were some people that didn't know um, what had happened. So please let the people know if it's okay so that they'll know. If you want to let people know what happened.
Yeah, you're asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that my mother passed away yesterday, and it's a pretty major event, obviously. Although we knew, we knew the end was near. It wasn't sudden or anything like that, but it's still, it's a major life event. And one of the curious things about this, if you tie it to astrology cycles, my father passed away 12 years ago, exactly on a Jupiter cycle. Jupiter has a 12-year cyclical period, and sometimes you'll be in the ballpark. This is like, almost precisely where it was 12 years ago that that event happened, and then now this one.
Yeah.
And they're both difficult, obviously, but
yeah.
It's like that. It's something that cuts pretty deep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, hello, Melissa. Thank you for coming. Tarot Ask Backwards. Thank you for coming. Hey, Geek Kimberly. Thank you for coming. And we're all sending our love to you. Everybody in the chat is sending their love to you, Andre. And I sent my love and prayers to you backstage. And yes, we're going to lift you up during this time. And I just feel it, and it's just sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's the empath in me. I can't help it. Can't help it. But on a happier note, I thought it would be fun today for Andre to do my chart and for you guys to see how Andre does his thing and see how he does it and see if you would like to, if you like how he does things, to go and get a reading from him, from Andre. In fact, how much do I owe you? How much do I owe you? I forgot to ask you that. You can answer me after the show. But yes, he's really cool, and I love his style. So we're going to see how this goes.
Is there a way to? I don't use StreamYard as much as you do. If can I link to sharing a screen here? Let's see.
Yes, you can. Mm-hmm.
Screen. So what am I sharing? Window. Okay, I see. I see the one I want. There we go. Like that. So now the only thing is, where did it? Are you seeing
Oh,
anything?
Tarot Ask Backwards wants a reading from you, by the way.
Are you okay? Are you seeing the screen?
No.
Uh, it shows shared. I see it here in the next to mine.
Are you simulcasting?
No, it's just to share. In other words, right now they're seeing you and I, but you can make it show that a screen, and then the two of us would probably. That's what Zoom does too. You become smaller, and the screen becomes bigger. But I see it here, but it's not sharing. Um,
Because if you simulcast, you might be able to do that.
um, okay, I don't know how to do that, and I have no idea how to do it. The reason being, it's really good to show the chart when you're talking about it, rather than me talking with the chart in the background. It's a lot better if you can see it.
Oh,
And so,
do you have
yeah,
like a paper version of it you can hold up?
no, I don't. I don't. I never use paper. I have a printer, but no, it's just on my screen. So it's just odd though, because it said I pushed the button and it says present screen. Is there something you have to do to give me permission or anything like that? Is that possible?
um, let me see. Mm, settings. Yes. Picture and picture layout. Which, hmm.
It's just really strange because it's showing me, as part of it, and it's showing the screen also,
Uh-huh.
but it's not showing up in the.
Wow. Hmm. Okay. Hmm.
Well, all right. I mean, I'll talk about it. I mean, the thing with that is that first of all, in order to do this, I have to put the screen over top of you and I, so I won't see you, but it's okay. The camera will still see me. So
Yeah.
let me see. Hold on. Let me see if I can somehow.
Well, that's okay. Just put the chart up and people won't be able to see us, but that's okay.
Right, but that's what I'm trying to do. It's not working though. The whole idea is that you have to make the screen should take over. I told it to pick the right one, and it did, but then now it's not showing up, and I don't know why. I mean, it's right next to my underneath here, in the
Hmm.
backstage. I don't know what's going on. So I can talk about your chart without showing it. So May 30th, 1972, 2:30 p.m. So how confident are you of that 2:30 p.m. time?
Very, because that's what was on my birth certificate.
Okay, so that's an example of uh, rising degree. So you're Virgo rising. You're a Gemini with Virgo rising. Had you been born, I think when I did it as 2:36 p.m., then that would mean that you would be Libra rising, but you're near the end of Virgo instead. 28, almost 29 degrees Virgo, very late in Virgo, and so that's the ascendant is Virgo. The sun sign is Gemini, and then you have your moon in Capricorn. Those are your three main, you know, you could call them main points. But the other thing is that the shape of the chart puts a lot of planets in the upper part. It's a public dimension. You've got
Mm-hmm.
multiple planets: Mercury, Sun, Saturn, Venus, Mars. They're all in very public parts of the chart. So the impulse to do things in the world, to go out there and communicate, especially Gemini is a communication sign. So
Mm-hmm.
talking, communicating, and influencing, because the 10th is the noon position, the high position of
Hi,
the chart.
Commander.
So all of that, and this is enhanced by the fact that the ruler of the ascendant, because Virgo rises, the ruler of the ascendant is Mercury. Mercury is also in that house with the sun in the 10th, which is the most public, most career oriented house. And your Capricorn moon is another career sign, in that Capricorn is the natural 10th. If you do a natural zodiac starting with Aries, so you see all these echoes of a similar theme. And then you have, if you look at the moon position, it's actually conjunct Jupiter. That's a really good one. Having a moon Jupiter conjunction is you could call it a lucky, helpful energy that will help you to feel, more expansive, more optimistic, happier. The counterpoint to that
Yeah.
is that you have that conjunction, but you also have a Sun Saturn conjunction, and that is completely different. That's where, if anything,
Yeah.
the opposite, meaning having to overcome. Saturn can be pretty heavy, and so that would be a question,
Yeah.
because one of the things with astrology is that astrology needs calibration. When I'm doing political people's charts, I see what they're like, I see what they're trying to do and by when, and then that's when I say, well, this is what is likely to happen, because you can look at their past history, what think cycles from the past, how they were doing, and even just the person's general attunement to life tells you a lot about whether they're likely to succeed or not, and you tie it into the cycles. So one of the questions here would be, uh, what has been in your past, when I mentioned something like Saturn Sun, have you been able to overcome any feelings of depression or feeling low? How is that in your life, if you had to describe it?
Um, the first 40 years of my life were horrible. And I had to overcome so much. And on
First
top
40.
of that, I'm disabled as well. And I had to put up with um, people, just bad mouthing me all the time and just saying, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I had to fight twice as hard.
Mhm.
So, yeah. And I put up with so much, and my depression was so bad. The first 40 years of my life was so bad. So now it's not as bad. It's handleable.
When you
So
say 40 years, would you say exactly 40, or would you say somewhere in that range? Like 40 would take you into, uh, so 28, 20, the 2012 region. Uh, where would you say is there a cutoff point or something along those lines where you feel like, okay, from that point, things really improved?
um I'd say um think well around 40 years. So about I was 43 when it hit my lowest. So that was like um so I was born so I turned so I was 40 for
40, 43 is your
43
low.
was my lowest. I am now 50. Oh, I'm going to be 52 this year. So yeah. Um,
So
so, but
2014, 2015, in that range is when
yeah,
it's okay. And then around that time, uh, what changed? Is that a kind of an awakening, a new thing? That like what do you recall? Because you say that's the cutoff point. So why now on the other side you feel different than before?
um, that's when my, that's when my gifts really kicked in and I started meeting better people.
Hmm.
And then I started watching YouTube and I got into Linda G. And then I got on YouTube and I made my channel. And hello, here I am.
Right. Well, see, okay, this is an example of a major astrology cycle that everyone experiences between the late 30s. That's a little more unusual. More typical is age 41, 42, all the way to 44. It's the Uranus cycle. Uranus has an 84-year arc. And when it goes to the halfway point, it's a point that people in the typical parlance, they'll describe it as the midlife crisis. So it takes many forms, but it tends to be a moment in many, many people's lives where something important changes and then they live their life differently from then on. And that for you, because you were born with Uranus in Libra, and it was right around then that Uranus was in Aries opposing. And so that's the change. And moreover, your chart, one of the things that tells you that your life is potentially more difficult than your average life is because you have, first of all, a Saturn Sun conjunction. So a Saturn Sun conjunction all by itself is challenging because Saturn is challenging. But then you have multiple planets. So you have Venus, Mars, Uranus, Eris, Jupiter, Moon. All those planets are in this. It's called a grand cross, so that everything
Mm-hmm.
is things are opposite, and then they're also square. So the grand cross is very dynamic, and uh, you know you could argue that a person like that can achieve even more than a person that doesn't have a grand cross. The problem is that the grand cross is hard, right? What saves you there, though, is that, or at least one of the things, is that the grand cross in your case is a cardinal grand cross. It's in Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, Libra. Cardinal signs, they're action oriented. This means that, because Gemini, by the way, is not. Gemini is a mutable sign. So Gemini is an adaptable, uh, receptive type of energy. The cardinal
Right.
signs, they start things, they try things, they go, they move. So then that enhances the chances that you will, make a big change just through action and trying new things. If you put that cardinal grand cross also in the same as your Gemini is mutable, then maybe you would do it, but it's more complicated because the mutable energy is more likely to stay in the mind. It's not as action oriented. So that is probably what helped you. And when Uranus was doing that half year point in the 2014, 2015 range, it's in cardinal degrees and it's squaring and it's, and another thing that is very interesting is if you then, around that time, 2015, 2016, there's Saturn pressure. If that doesn't take you down and you are working at yourself, doing things, which is what you said you were doing, that's also a really good sign, around
Oh no,
the
it
way.
didn't take me down. It was just like I've had worse, I'm you know, I mean, I was even born dead and I came back.
Hmm. Well, see there, that's a totally separate. This is where the chart can be spooky almost because your uh, rising degrees, 28, almost 29 Virgo, the Pluto was conjunct because Pluto was 2920. Pluto was about half a degree right next to your ascendant. When Pluto is like that, the standard interpretation is that at minimum the birth is more difficult. The mother, so that, but then think about the sort of dark poetry of Pluto is the lord of the underworld. It rules death, so you put it
Yep.
on the ascendant, the risks increase, right? They just increase. Um, and it was wired, it was wired at your midheaven degrees, like the highest degrees, it was squaring those. Yeah. So anyways, that's why you say the birth was a complicated thing, right? But then it sounds like it didn't get better from there, right? What is it? The upbringing was difficult as well. Your early,
Yes.
all of that. Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
there you go to, in astrology, you then look at houses 4 and 10 and the midheaven and the lowest point in the chart. And turns out that's where your sun Saturn conjunction is. So the fact that a person has planets in the 10th and makes them move toward, being an influence of some kind in the world, that's one side of it. The other side is that it can be problematic parental, because those are the parents as well. And when you're at a young age, you don't have any control over that. It's just whatever they're doing, you follow along. And if they happen to be really, illuminated, good for you. And if not, then you have a problem. You have to, live with it until you can reach a point where you can heal yourself or, uh,
And
fix the,
yeah, which I
yeah,
did.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is good. That's really, really good. Because one of the
Yeah.
things too is part of the Grand Cross in your chart is one of the planets in that Grand Cross is the planet that was discovered in 2005, which is, in fact, this has to be factored into why you chose the name. When you say warrior princess, Iris is the warrior princess. It's literally a warrioress, and it's the energy of. You have to think of it this way. So, astronomers, they find the planets, and astronomers, ironically, are astrology phobic. They will, almost all of them will say, "Oh, astrology, that, how can that work?" Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
true. The only thing that's real is that we spot planets. But then they name the planets after mythological figures. And the amazing
Go figure.
pattern is that, in fact, before we even get to Eris, Pluto was named Pluto because a little girl who was the daughter of a friend of an astronomer, a little girl in England, her father was friends with the American astronomer that discovered Pluto, and they were arguing about what to call it, and they were going to call it Minerva, but Minerva was taken. So then the little girl said, "No, no, well, it's out there. I've been reading some I don't know, some mythology. I don't know what the story was. It was pretty mild. Call it Pluto because it's cold out there. They called it Pluto. Well, it is Pluto. It's Pluto. So the magical coincidence aligns with that. Now, by the way, crazily, in her chart, Pluto was right next to her sun, which is very unusual. Pluto next to the sun in a transit may not happen to a person at all because Pluto has an orbit that is so enormous. Coincided with she was born with Pluto before the sun. She does this when Pluto lands on the sun. Then she continues her life. She never did mythology. She became an accountant, had no connection to any of this at all, right? And yet the
Yeah.
coincidence is there. Now, Eris is discovered and they named it after a woman, after a warrioress. And all of a sudden, what happens? If you look at the last number of years, women are rising in power, even though people like Trump, who embody more of the Pluto is a kind of separate from being the Lord of the Underworld, is also a overly dominant, overpowering. When Trump says domination and all this is the male energy trying to subjugate men and women, but especially women. That's why he does the horrible things that he does. But Eris is the counterpoint to that, right? And in
Right.
fact, the other thing is in the sky, when we, in 2020, there was a square of Eris Pluto. And I remember saying, Eris is going to win that battle, and effectively what happened is women elected Biden. If it's not for women, we would have had Trump again. That's one of the crazy thoughts. Take women up. Women have only been voting since 1920, 27, I think, and they only started voting for themselves in the late 80s, whereupon they've been electing Democratic governments ever since then because women are more progressive. They're more sensible. Men tend to, everything is a power trip, an ego trip. And so, anyways,
Yeah.
Eris for you is very wired because it's part of that T square. So you then incorporate it into your own name, the way you name your channel, but it's also the idea of you being a that force, bringing it into the world, which is the idea of liberating women from their subjugation by men, right? In fact, there's a
Right.
great example of Iris. There's a movie that was made. It's called They Named Me Malala. That's classic Iris something, in fact, and it's in her chart. When I looked at her, I didn't have her time, but I saw the day chart. Iris is really wired. It's the idea of a woman defending other women overall, but especially against the bad energies of men, let's say, right? And so that's something that is there your whole life, as a pattern from the Eris energy, and it's wired into that T square. So it's part of the engine of your chart, right? That's the
I've
magic.
always been a fighter, though. Always been a fighter.
Yeah,
I've
no,
always
for
had to
sure.
be.
for sure, because of Eris. But the other thing that going on in your chart, now I'm going on, tangents here, is that you look at everything and you see these unusual patterns in that your there's this condition called out of bounds, which is when planets are in the sign they're in. That's one level, but the other level is they might be really far north or far south. So when you see in the summer, the sun moves north, north, north. If you're in the northern hemisphere, that is, right? As it's
Mm-hmm.
moving north, 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 we get summer. And then in the winter, it's because it moves south. All that has to happen to get seasons is the earth tilts a little bit, and then it gets colder in winter because it's south, or it's warmer in summer. Well, those northernmost positions of the sun, if planets go beyond that, they're called out of bounds. Out of bounds means that they're out of bounds, which means they don't respect limits as much. They become unusual, they become more forceful. So you have several out of bounds planets. You have your moon, your Venus, and your Mars. So on account of the moon, it's the empathy, it's more feeling, more emotion, which, by the way, probably wouldn't have helped when you were younger, because
It didn't.
when you're younger, you will do some incredibly stupid things with out of bounds planets, through just rebellion. And
Yeah.
so you go,
Yeah.
resist your parents, and then, but as you age and you start to realize, recoiling against things, doing things just to rebel is not particularly useful, but doing unusual things is totally fine. So then, to give you an example, your moon is out of bounds. Well, Einstein had an out of bounds moon in Sagittarius, which is the sign of outer space. Literally, he was a genius at envisioning what was happening, which was totally new. No one ever reasoned this crazy thing that he came up with. He saw the vision. He actually needed a little help with the math. His math was not up to the level of his vision. So he had a friend that was really, really good with the equations. And together they put together the math. But he could, in his mind, sense this crazy idea because of the out of bounds moon, right? So,
Right.
but
Okay.
either way, out of bounds is it exceeds. And uh, now where it helps you is because also as you mature, the moon being in Capricorn is an organized sign, and it never feels happy unless things are organized and in order.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, if anything, you'd have to be careful with becoming maybe a little compulsive around it, because being out of bounds, now you're really increasing it. But better that than being in disorder, for sure, right? That's the logic of
Yeah.
having the
I go
moon.
crazy if I don't have things all set.
Right, right, exactly. So, but now the other thing is that moon in your chart, and the Venus Mars, which are all of them are out of bounds. So there's an opposition across the 511 axis of the chart, which is the primarily the children's the primary creativity axis, right? So the children are the first creation, but then any other creativity comes out of that axis, right? So it's a creative alignment. That's good. You have Jupiter, Moon, Venus, Mars cutting across creative houses. You just got to unlock that and bring it into the world. That's the logic of that. Now, you also would say that in the recent period here, how did you do last year and up to about now? Because the Saturn has been pretty thick. Saturn has been transiting through Pisces, and it's been challenging.
Oh,
Multiple
oh
planets.
yeah.
What's have you been feeling? Has your health been okay?
Um, I have a congenital heart defect,
Mm,
and like 2 years ago, it got so bad that I had to have surgery because I have it's congenital, right? And if I wasn't careful, I could like poof go at any minute
right.
because I have a person only has like one between the two chambers on the top and the bottom, and a
Right.
person has like one cord that connects. I have three,
Mm,
Okay.
right. Yeah.
And they had to go in and figure out which one was making it misfire. And
Right.
I had to be awake in order for them to do that. So they would have me awake, have it go, and then knock me out, and fix it, and then keep waking me up to see if they got it all.
So this
But
was 2 years ago, you said?
about 2 or 3 years ago, something like that.
Like
Um,
2021?
some 2021, 22, something like that.
Right.
Because I first found out about it when I was like 20, 24, 25, and it got so bad to where it would my heart would go off every 5 minutes. I couldn't even sleep. I would wake up and it would be doing it. So the doctor put me on medicine, and even on the medicine, it would go off. And one time it scared the crap out of me. And my mom's a retired nurse, and she thought I was having a heart attack. So she took me to the hospital, and they even brought the defibrillators in because they thought I was having. It's like, So they had to basically make my heart stop and then restart while
Mm.
I was awake. Oh my god. But I'm still on the medicine even though I had the surgery, so that's going on. Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
have
See,
3 congenital defects. What?
the, well, the thing is that, see, in 2021, 2022, the Saturn cycle is going through your health house. And so that's, pretty classic that it could show up that way. Also at birth, your sun, the heart is sun rules the heart, and Leo too. Leo is the sign of the heart, and Leo is in the most complicated place. It's in the 12th sign of your chart. So Leo is, think of it as the hospital part of the chart. It's where you go where the health is not just, it's serious health, right? So
Right.
it means that Saturn next to the sun at birth all by itself can be something like that, a heart condition. And then Saturn cycles will set it off. So Saturn going through Aquarius, which now it's moved to the next sign, but back then it was in Aquarius. The other thing too is that there's another factor in your chart. I'm going a bit in the weeds here in the technicals, but when you look
All
at
right.
planets, what tells you what's going on is what angle are they making to each other. And this is an angle that I've talked about incessantly in my classes, and to anyone that listens to me, people that I talk with about astrology. It's called a inconjunct, or it's called a quincunx, or a 150, which is, it's an odd aspect because normally in astrology you focus on the uh, the the digits that start at one, they go to nine, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to nine. So you get trines, sextiles, squares, semi-squares. You get those digits, but the 150 doesn't have any actual digit because it's a sort of a misaligned part of the chart. In any case, it tells you about health and well-being. It's not my prefer. Like, in fact, in my own life, I can find multiple injuries, throughout my life. I've been in sports many years, and I've always been very active. And I can point to 4 or 5 times where it got me. I forgot that it was there, and so all of a sudden, injury would show up. So here's the thing: your sun moon at birth, your sun is in Gemini at 9 degrees Gemini. Your moon is at 8 degrees Capricorn. That's an almost
Mhm.
precise 150. So you could say at birth, this person will probably have to deal with some health things. It's going to be pretty inevitable that part of their life is that. But of course, it could have turned out, for example, that you might have said, no, actually, no, my health is okay, but I'm a veterinarian, or you'd be in the health field, right? As a way to express that. Because what I noticed with these aspects is that this 150, uh, when it's happening, it's either you or it's around you, right? So I've been in this for the last couple of years, experiencing it people around me in my life as well. So it's either or. But in any case,
Yeah.
that would not be the luckiest thing. Where your Jupiter Moon conjunction is an excellent thing, your Saturn Sun, not as good, and then this 150
Yeah.
also not great, right? That's the logic. And then another thing in your chart that is really obvious that jumps out at you is because you're a Gemini, Mercury becomes the ruling planet of the sun.
Yep.
Mercury is in Gemini, but it opposes Neptune, right? So Mercury opposing Neptune is a journey from, like you could almost say, periods of delusion where you might not be, you would be too spacey and too unrealistic and too, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. But the journey is to get more and more clarity and basically discover better and better spirituality, which is the high end of Neptune. The low end of Neptune is self-deception, or what Trump does. Trump uses Neptune to basically deceive people, lie to people. He's a liar. I mean, he doesn't know how to say a single thing that is true. It's like extreme Neptune, where you're this walking lying machine. That's Neptune when it's completely corrupt, right? But picture it
Mm.
now in the psyche as something that can also bring about uh, patterns of self-deception, and then can the person bring themselves out of that and become more and more clear, in which case it's more spiritual, then you have more clear vision, then you can help yourself and you can help other people, right? So the potential is there. And if you can say that, as you said, you get to your mid 40s, things start to improve, that's a really good sign, because it probably means that Mercury Neptune is more healthy, and then it's going to guide you and it's going to help you, to also help other people as well. Because that's the thing with your chart, all that energy up there in the 10th, 11th, it's both about you and about the effect you have on people. Both of those are really important. Not, because you
Which is why I wanted to start the channel, because I wanted to help people.
right, exactly, yeah, that's exactly it. So
And I didn't want to waste my gifts. I wanted to use them to help people. So, so I was given them for a reason.
right, exactly, yeah, exactly. And there, another thing you see coming here, which is this is where using astrology strategically is a really smart thing. Is this is happening, so the work that you do ahead of that to bring it about is really meaningful. Your progressed sun, you started out with Gemini sun, then somewhere around age 21, 20. Well, actually, I can tell you when precisely, because I have that
Ugh,
listing.
21 was horrible.
So, so the sun went into Cancer. Yeah, 21 and a half. Well, that's the thing. This is a major change. At 21 and a half, your progressed sun goes into Cancer, but then it's in Cancer for 30 years. So 21 could be bad for other reasons. The point is that 21, you do become more feeling oriented than Cancer. Gemini is more cerebral, more of a thinking, analyzing sign. Cancer is more
Yep.
feeling oriented. So probably because there were cycles, and I'd have to look those up when you were 21, some cycles where it didn't feel so good, but you're in a 30-year swath where you develop your feeling nature over many years in comparison to the Gemini period. Now you're about a year and a bit in 2025. uh, and again, don't expect this to click in like day one type thing, but in 2025, what happens is that the sun, the progressed sun, in May of 2025, the progressed sun switches to Leo, where it'll be for the next 30 years. So Leo is in contrast to Cancer, it's a creative, expressive, confident type of sign, right? So the key word there would be confidence, because confidence is a sense that your energies are aligned, you feel good about yourself, you feel good about what you're doing, and that always benefits you and it benefits other people, because then you can produce good energy, good results, all those things. So
Right.
that's going to be a change that is coming up in your life, and you already have some planets there by progression, but the sun is huge, and yet
Oh, yeah.
simultaneously simultaneously, because in your chart, Leo is in the 12th, it also increases your connection to spirituality, because spirituality is the 12th as well, right? The 12th is where you.
Oh yeah, because I've been trying for what 11, 12 years to move to England.
To move to England.
To move to England, and every time I try, the door closes. So but I haven't given up.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. This is a good one. So the way you do this is here's what's happening. Your Sun, Mercury, Saturn, they're in Gemini. Your 4th, which is the house of your home, is Sagittarius. That means Jupiter rules it. Jupiter
Mhm.
is a planet that can bring you these gifts for sure. And so you know from the cycles that Jupiter will enter Gemini. It's coming up. It's in Taurus now. It's going to be in Gemini in late May. It's going to be in Gemini for a year. And after that, it's going to be in Cancer. But you have planets in Cancer too. So here's the thing. Since Jupiter rules the 4th sign, and you know that it's going to go up to your planets, one thing to say is, well, maybe it'll just magically, it could happen. It could happen that all of a sudden the door opens and you discover the way to get to England, right? But
Right.
better still would be for you to participate in the bringing that's proactive astrology. Is you realize, okay, this is happening, so I'm going to join the Jupiter. Jupiter is visioning. Jupiter is the idea. My vision is to be in England. So then what you do is
Mm.
every single day envision yourself in England. What that does is it sets the energy in motion so that if there are things that need to be done during the day, right, like to
Mhm.
bring it about, then you'll do them. And it'll also set in motion, supernormal energies that would help you to bring that vision about. That's the logic, right? Because often what can happen when you're trying to bring about a change, you can then, get when you have a setback and it doesn't work, your mind will actually hold the restriction, and then the restriction will tend to continue if you don't get rid of it. So there's a question there. I have Leo in the 12th house, but also Black Moon Lilith too. Um, well, this is the problem. But you have to look at the whole chart. I mean, if you just say Leo in the 12th, if you just say Black Moon Lilith, a lot of Black Moon Lilith explanations are kind of going to the dark side a little more, because the Black Moon is on the plus side is a person's ability to let their darker side just be and not resist it so much. But it wouldn't be my first choice to say, I'll put it in the 12th house and that'll fix everything. No, if anything, that could cause problems. But you have to see where the sun is and aspects, and you have to look at the whole chart. People do this all the time. They want to ask a question about a chart. It's as though you went to the doctor to say, doctor, can you tell me my health by looking at my elbow or one part of my body? Say, well, no, you can't do that. You've got to do a more comprehensive exam of sorts, right? So look to your solar position and the aspects of the sun to see the condition of your 12th house, to figure that out. That's the answer to that question.
And Melissa Thompson also said Jupiter also rules long distance travel and Mercury is short distance travel,
It
right?
is. Yeah, it does do that. But you have to be careful with that in terms of broadening the definition. For example, if in some chart you find Mercury in the ninth sign, and Jupiter's in the 3rd, then Jupiter's connected to short distance travel and Mercury's connected to long distance travel because they flip places. So yes, in broad terms, totally true. Jupiter is the long distance travel, but it depends where it is in the chart, right? Like in your
Yeah.
case, for example, Jupiter for you is a very good ally for creativity, for manifestation, because it's in the 5th, the house of children, where you either make children or you make creations of any type, right? in the
I
so
make
it's not
creations. I don't have
right.
any children.
Right. And then and really because it's in Capricorn, your creativity is around creating a place in the world. Capricorn is the sign of the 10th, the sign of of career, but any creativity, right, is in that house. So that's the logic of that one.
Oh, and Rochelle Allard says she will keep you in her prayers.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate all the all the messages that I've been getting about what just happened. It's
Oh, it's okay, warrior girl. You had a question. Go ahead and ask it. Right, Andre?
sure.
So keep going. If anybody, we'll stop and answer questions. But Andre can keep going if he needs to.
Right. Well, I'll just say a couple more things because we're getting near about an hour. So
Yeah.
uh, I'll just say that a couple of things that are interesting. One
Hmm.
is that right now Neptune until 2026 is roaming around one of the angles of your chart based on your birth time. This is rare because a planet like Neptune is so slow moving that when it's around the place, it's there for quite a while, as in 2+ years, but then you won't see it again for many years after that. So the opportunity there with Neptune is related to much along the same lines as Jupiter, visioning. And curiously, the angle that it's in, the seventh sign, the descendant angle, is the house you move to, right? Rather than the house you live in now. So that's more fuel to tell you to do a lot of visioning around being in England if that's where you want to go, right? Because
Yes, it
sometimes people
is.
say that
Mm-hmm.
and they're not totally sure. And if you're not totally sure, then if you're getting a split screen in your subconscious, it'll tend to slow down the manifestation that you're trying to affect. And then separately, Neptune being around is a very spiritual planet. So it gives you an opportunity to deepen your spirituality over these next 2 years, deepen your connection, which is always useful for a person doing this kind of work. And then these are also the energies of change in general, because anything you're doing, you're changing from one state to another. And there, the Pluto cycle is also really helpful because Pluto entering Aquarius, what it's going to do for quite a few years here, pretty much from now until the end of the decade, it's trining your Gemini planets. And when a planet is trining, it helps you in a more natural way. Not by itself, it needs help from other planets as well, but by itself, it makes you more receptive to making big changes, right? So, and,
Mm-hmm.
and it could very easily be involved in this uh, change that you're trying to make of residence, because your Pluto at birth, it makes a powerful change angle to your uh, home and career, right? So the idea, because it sounds to me like what you're trying to do is you're trying to move to England and then do your career from there, from home, right? Is that a fair way
Yes.
to put it? Yeah. Okay. Right. So that fits perfectly with the Pluto where it is. So I would count those as good energies. And the final note, which I think is really positive, is what I said earlier, that when all is said and done, you've been under Saturn now for the last year or so, but now Saturn is lessening because it's moving away from challenging degrees, but the Jupiter is moving in June, goes over your planets, then goes over the other planets, then the following summer, the summer of 25 to the summer of 26. So you're entering a good zone for sure, in your astrology.
Yeah. See what Melissa said?
Uh, then Rona came. Um, Oh, okay. I don't totally understand that, but that can be that sometimes you get in a cycle, you get something that happens, but it may not necessarily stick. Like I remember, for instance, many years ago doing a chart for a woman was on a Uranus cycle. Uranus is very separation, divorce oriented, and she was convinced that she needed to leave her marriage. And I told her, well, that's the planet that's there. I mean, this is how long it's going to last. And what happened is she came to visit me after the planet left, and she said, "Well, I changed my mind. Once it left, I lost, I
I
lost the
lost
impulse."
interest.
Like she thought she realized that most of it was her. That's not always the case. In many cases, it's true, the impulse to go and you go, right? But in her case,
Mm-hmm.
she let it
Yeah.
go because she realized it was just her going through a period. Because Uranus energy uh, can be very, very independent and anti-relational. You know, it's the classic divorce planet when it's around. If things are
Yeah.
not good, it pulls you away from people, from situations. In fact, with you, it was very useful for you because on the Uranus half cycle, you pulled away from the whole first half of your life. So, you know.
That's true. But I mean, I've been trying for like 11, 12 years to get over there. And it's still, I mean, it's stronger than ever. But then, I've had past life readings and Akashic readings, and I found out some things. And I've had past lives in England.
Mhm.
I have in this life, I have family, I have ancestors from England in this life. So it's like, have I have um I have Celtic blood in
Right,
me. I
right.
have
So,
English blood in me. So it's like really, and I found out I had a past life in the royal family.
hmm,
So
interesting.
I was one of Henry VIII's cousins.
Hmm.
Fortunately, he didn't marry me.
That's good, yeah, because he was kind of a dangerous person. He'd cut off your head.
Yeah, yeah. It's like,
Not a good
fortunately,
plan.
he didn't marry me, but I was one of his cousins. And I had like five other lives other than that one over there. So
Mhm.
it's like it's like I really have a strong pull to go over there. It's like I need to get over there.
Well, I'll tell you,
Yeah.
if you were thinking of this, when a person says 11, 12 years ago, 12 years is the Jupiter cycle. That means that on a prior Jupiter cycle to where it is today, you were trying to make this happen. So the odds increase that it'll happen around now. So refocus, bring your mind in because it's possible. Those 12-year cycles, Jupiter, I've seen in my life do the Jupiter itself returning or from any point. You look at it and you point. So like 12-year journeys, I've done those where I don't know when I'm starting. And then 12 years later, I go, yeah, that impulse ended. And now I'm so if you were thinking of this 11, 12 years ago, you're in a really good spot around it for now, because it's
And
this.
then, yeah, I started like 2 years ago to really get this going, and then I almost had it done in order to really get going, and then the door got shut,
Right.
and then I was like,
Mm.
dang. So so now, because they changed the rules over there, so now I have to start over from scratch,
Well,
and I'm
worth it.
like, huh?
It could be worth it. I mean, sometimes it's like when you write a book and then you realize that you have to throw it in the wastepaper basket. You just write another book. I mean,
True. I mean,
it's like that.
they raise the money. They raise the money that you need to get over there. And I'm
Right.
like, really?
It's harder. Yeah. It makes it harder.
So but this hasn't deterred me from going. I'm still gonna go. I mean, I'm a determined person. I'm tenacious. I've been tenacious all my life.
Yeah. Well, no,
Y-
and right now is the time to envision this and focus on this because it's in the cycles. Saturn is traveling through it's the seventh is the relationship house, but it's also the future home. So this year and next year, that's the Saturn energy, and Jupiter is about to move through your planets. So the possibility of something manifesting increases pretty dramatically. So focus on the vision to see if you can make it happen. That's what I would do.
Oh, yay. Warrior Girl says she sees me there.
There you
Yay.
go. Okay. So
And I'm going to go live with a friend of mine, and we're going to go visit Stonehenge.
excellent.
And I'm going to send you pictures. See, Andre? See what you helped me do?
There you go. Yes, exactly, exactly.
So, yes, it's really, I'll be like sending you all these videos. See, Andre?
Right. Yeah, no, I mean that. See, this is the thing. These are the great adventures in life where you see you envision something and you tie it to the astrology, and you notice how much was, call it chance, call it luck, call it the way things come together, and how much was you participating in the change. I say the proactive side is the most important because it's what really empowers your spirit, to do better and better things. That's been my experience, there have been many cases where I would have a Jupiter cycle and not very much was happening because I wasn't doing very much. And
Yeah.
conversely, when I've prepared the landscape, that's Saturn, Jupiter. Saturn is your work. Jupiter, it's the idea of luck, luck being like an opportunity that meets the preparation, the work that you've done to make it possible. So you can't move to England without doing the paperwork. They won't let you. I mean, unless you want to go as a stowaway and hide somewhere, which would be a totally different trip that I probably
Oh
didn't recommend,
no,
right?
no.
Right.
I don't want to
Exactly.
be deported. Thank you
Yeah,
very
exactly,
much.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's the point, that normally you go through the channels, but it means period of work, a period of focus. That's the thing about being alive. Things move slowly and you have to be patient, right? But once you
Yeah.
see favorable cycles, you know, align yourself with those cycles because that's the whole idea. To
Oh, and I was going to tell you one other thing when you were talking about things happening when I was born.
Mhm.
Um, Not only did I die and pass away and then come back, but my mom passed away and then came back.
Wow, Jesus. Wow, wow, wow. Well, did you get any because I was just watching because of my mother's passing. One of my sisters said, "Oh, I watched this movie called Afterlife, where they um, have all these people that have had near death experiences, and it's pretty freaky, strange. I mean, I've come across this before. It's not a new thing, but it's sort of that logic
Oh,
that depending on the situation, you might experience something really unusual.
my mom did. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have
She
been
told me about it. Yeah, she did.
hmm,
But
interesting.
I don't know because I was a newborn, you know. Um, I was a newborn. I don't remember it. But I do know that that's when they gave me my gifts is when I passed and then I came back. I passed, they gave me my gifts and
Hmm.
then they sent me back.
They sent you back. Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah,
So I'm supposed to be here for a reason.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's powerful stuff. That goes to your like I said, those all those in part, not the only thing, but the 10th, 11th, lots of planets up there are very concerned with helping the world, influencing the world, bringing energies into the world. That's that logic.
Yeah, it's just yeah, cuz mine was a really weird birth. It shouldn't have happened. I was born in a military hospital. That's all I'm going to say.
Mm.
But what happened shouldn't have happened. And my mom, she just hemorrhaged and she like floated up and saw herself on the floated up to the ceiling
Right, right,
and
right,
saw
right.
herself and they saw them getting me out
Hmm.
and then she just went right back in.
Hmm.
And then with me, you know, they got me out and this,
Right,
and I was gone for like 5 minutes and then I came back.
right. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's definitely reflective of that kind of chart. But yeah, now you're here and you've got these upcoming cycles to try to integrate all of that, into
But
your.
sorry if I freaked everybody out, but but that's just what happened, and it, it, um, I'm just living that. Yeah, Melissa, that's she had sort of uh, uh, her mom had sort of a um, similar thing that my mom went through, and it's just, it's like. Knowing what what I went through and what we both went through, it's like, well, we're here for a reason, but um, I'm just glad that my life is going so much better than the first half of my life went.
Right. Yeah.
This is my second half, and everybody in my family lives a long time.
Hmm.
So I'm going to say I'm probably going to live into my 80s or 90s. So, and I'm only like going to be 52, so I'm still young.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. That's the thing to focus on. Exactly. That's exactly it. All right.
And I feel young. I look young. I feel young, even though my body isn't young. It's like, screw you.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I love it. But anyway, I'm sorry. I know you're probably like, I want to go eat.
Yeah. I gotta go because yeah, that's my schedule. But that's good. We've covered a lot. It's
Yes.
yeah. So we'll stop there and
Yes. But thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Andre, for the wonderful reading. I really appreciate it. Um, thank you, everybody, for coming to the chat, my wonderful chatters. And everybody have a wonderful week. Andre, have a wonderful week. Even though with everything considering, I'm keeping you in my thoughts and prayers.
thank you.
And your family, I send my condolences. Sending hugs too, lots of hugs. Everybody, love you all. Bye.
Bye, everyone.